What's going on, guys? Manny here. Welcome back to the channel. It's time for another episode about plateau breaking. I would like to share a strategy with you which helped me in my climbing career who wants to overcome a plateau, and it's rather again for advanced climbers, who are really struggling to push their limits, to really get that last bit of fitness out of their bodies, compared to the beginner climber who can basically do whatever he wants and he will improve because he's got still so much stuff to improve on. And this approach, this strategy, I would like to call pushing your numbers, or making your progress, making your fitness measurable. And the way how it works is, you have to imagine in climbing we've got quite a hard time to obtain an objective measure of our fitness. Okay, it's quite hard to say, well, you climbed this max grade at the moment, and if you proceed to the next harder grade, you obviously have progressed, right? This is how you measure your progress. And if you're standing on one grade for 2 years, you do not progress, basically, right? And you only progress if you make it to the next harder grade. But that's of course not the case. It's not that simple, There are so many factors behind getting a new max grade that if we only rely on the max grade, it's really frustrating. It's really hard to measure progress accurately by only looking at the max grade. Also because, let's say you achieve a new max grade, then it could still be that since we have so many different styles in climbing, we've got bouldering, route climbing, we've got competition climbing, we've got indoors, outdoors. It could just be that this certain problem, just suited you really well. Maybe it had this kind of super special heel hook, super sketchy heel hook, which is so hard for everyone else, but for some reason it's so simple for you to do and you always stuck it, that it's actually, this problem just suited you really well, okay? Maybe you even got weaker during the last 2 months or so, but because this route suited you so well, you had the impression, oh, nice, I've got a new max grade, I obviously got stronger. But in fact, it's not the case, okay? Subjectively speaking, you felt really good on that route, you felt really strong on it, so you subjectively thought, okay, you're stronger, but objectively speaking, you actually got a little bit weaker in the time. So it does not necessarily mean that it happened that way, but it could happen that way. Another thing is that in climbing we've got different gradings, okay? So the grading of one area is not the same as of another climbing area, okay? There are softer graded areas and there are harder graded areas. And even in a certain area, then there are the harder test pieces where everybody will say, ooh, that's complex stuff, it's hard stuff, hard to sand. And then there are the softer presents, the softer consumer-friendly routes, let's call it like that, the consumer-friendly problems where everybody says, hey, you know what, you want to climb your first 7C, maybe you should try out this because a lot of people climb this as their first 7C and stuff. So now you still don't know, did you actually progress, or did you actually just climb something which really is softly graded? And here actually databases like 88.nu come into play, where you can check out who is already climbed this stuff, what was their opinion about it, what was their comment, was it soft, was it hard. And here you can get a more accurate picture actually of how hard that stuff that you sent really was. So therefore I think it's actually quite a good tool. Now, how does the approach actually work? Let's compare it with a 100-meter sprint. In a 100-meter sprint, it's quite simple. You've got stronger when you got faster. So if you just run as fast as possible, and once you get to the finish line, you see, okay, I've got 2/100ths of a second faster than last time, so I obviously have progressed, right? And there are not many factors there involved, so you really, obviously, objectively have progressed. But even in a 100-meter sprint, when we take a close look at it, we can divide it into the first 3 seconds, which is all about accelerating, which is all about this explosive power. And then we've got the next 6-7 seconds, which are more about keeping up that speed, keeping up that power endurance, that energy output to get as fast as possible to the finish line. Okay, so even in a simple thing like a 100-meter sprint, we can divide it in different factors which contribute to your performance. Now the sprinter doesn't really know now, what was it that actually made me faster? Was it the explosive part or the power endurance part? So therefore, there's got to be some kind of exercises in the gym, some kind of leg press or whatever they do in order to attain a certain number that you can check oh, my leg press got actually really stronger. Probably it was the explosive part at the beginning, but because that's where you need the leg press. I mean, I don't know all this stuff, I'm making this up now, but you kind of get the picture, you kind of get what I'm saying. Additionally, in a 100-meter sprint, it's so cool that when you get stronger on the 100-meter track, you can be pretty sure that you got stronger on all 100-meter tracks, okay? Because all 100-meter tracks are the same. In climbing, everything is much more complicated because not only are all tracks different, as I told you before, we've got different styles, different problems. There is not a single identical problem in climbing, apart from speed climbing, which is another strange story. But anyway, not only do we have different tracks in climbing, but we also have a lot more factors which contribute to performance. And I've talked about this before. What is the most important factor and stuff like that? We've got factors: finger strength, core strength, upper body strength. We've got explosiveness, of course. We've got different mental aspects which are equally important almost with climbing hard stuff, and all these contribute to performance. So let's say you actually got a new grade. You got the new grade and it was a hard route. You can be sure it was your top best performance so far in your climbing career. You still don't really know which one of all these factors was it really that allowed you to achieve this new limit, this new result, okay? So it would be cool to have some kind of standardized workouts to track that stuff. Just as a sprinter with his leg press can track his explosiveness of his sprint, it would be cool to have some standardized workouts for climbers to track their, let's say, finger strength or upper body strength or explosiveness, core strength, to really obtain some numbers, some objective numbers, black on white, and get these numbers, try to improve them for a certain kind of time, repeat the standardized workouts, get these numbers again, and then compare the numbers before and after. And if you see some progress on your numbers, you can be definitely sure that you progressed objectively in this certain part of your performance, okay, in this certain contributor to performance. So yeah, and that's why I would call this approach pushing your numbers, And I'm saying this now, I'm doing this video now because I want to actually do this in the next week, okay? I want to do a few standardized workouts for finger strength, for upper body strength, for explosiveness, for example, and obtain these numbers, train the upcoming weeks and maybe months, repeat the standardized workouts and see if I could actually progress. And I'm gonna make also videos about it so that you can have an idea what I would believe would be a nice design for such a standardized workout. Now, yeah, as you can imagine, this is something that is really powerful when it comes to breaking plateaus. Because when we try to break a plateau, we most of the time we look at the max grade. We look at the grades. How many for example, routes of your max grade can you do in a certain time, a certain amount of time, for example. This is another way of measuring your progress often. Or simply, when are you able to get that next max grade, the next harder max grade, okay? But instead, we maybe should take a look at these certain individual contributors to performance and improve them individually, because then we can also see the improvement, okay? Black on white, we can really measure it, and that's of course also really motivating. Waiting for the next max grade can be really frustrating. If you're kind of an advanced climber, you sometimes have to wait for years, okay? Until the next max grade, the next harder max grade arrives. And therefore, taking a look at these performance contributors can give you a quicker event of success. It can give you a quicker progress that is really measurable. And these numbers don't lie. If you really execute the workouts accurately with accurate resting times, bonus weight, number of sets, and everything has to be done accordingly, of course, then you can be sure that you progressed really, and sooner or later you will feel this progression also on the rock, also in the comps, also on the boulders, whatever you train for. So I'm now 2 months back into regular climbing, and I have the feeling that I got my standard baseline fitness again. So I was able to send some quite hard stuff recently on the rope, on rock, quite quickly without any effort of conditioning myself for it or waiting for good conditions outdoors or something like that. It just went down, which tells me, oh yeah, if I would actually condition myself and the conditions outdoors would be nice, I could probably climb my max grade again, but at the moment that doesn't really make sense for me. I would rather try to attain a new level, okay, to push myself to the next level and then try some really hard stuff in the autumn with this newly attained fitness. So that's why I want to try yet again this approach now for improving my, for breaking my plateau, so to speak. Yeah, and I'm gonna make these standardized workouts the upcoming week. I'm gonna make videos about it, so stay tuned for that. As always, if you've got something from this video, from this episode, please drop some likes and opinions. What do you think about this approach? Maybe you have tried it before yourself. Maybe you have read it in some kind of training instruction book or so. I personally did not read specifically about this approach somewhere, but maybe you already heard about it. Please tell me in the comments down below, and what is your experience about it. Until then, guys, I think I'm gonna start my first standardized workout right now after making this video. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.